Welcome to MQC.
The Massachusetts Quadball Chat.
My name is Carsen Olazaba.
I'm Sierra Delk.
And every week we're going to be breaking down the upcoming MQC series. And starting next week, we're going to be discussing some highlights from the previous weekend.
This weekend, Saturday, February 17th, we're at Tufts Fletcher Field featuring Tufts, Brown, Boston University, and Middlebury for a round robin. Kicking off at 9 a.m., you can catch the live stream on the Massachusetts Quadball Conference Facebook page.
So starting with the first topic of the week, we have a rubber match between BU, ranked number 17 in USQ standings, versus Middlebury, who is ranked number 19, only 2 spots below. On the season so far, they are 1-1, with Middlebury picking up their win at a fall MQC round robin, score of 115-70, and BU winning the most recent matchup at Boston National Qualifier in 155-70.
Starting this weekend, BU is going to have to start to find their identity as a team. They had a really great national qualifier in Boston, but their fall MQC schedule was less consistent. And I think one of the players that's going to lead to them finding their identity leading up to nationals is Ethan Dillon. He's on an upward trajectory. He's got great hands on hoops. He's got a great shot on offense. He's nearly unstoppable on a fast break. And he really holds their quad ball game together.
Yeah, I think the big question for BU when it comes to the quad ball game is kind of what the supporting pieces for Ethan look like. To your point, in college, near unstoppable. So I think it really comes up to like some of the younger players. I know Evan Skyraba is somebody who's kind of coming up. I think this is his first season. He's looked pretty good. Like he can kind of fill, the supporting cast shoes to Ethan, at least in his first season. And so I think it's really going to be about in the chasing game, what you can put with Ethan, because they have it in the beating game.
Mm-hmm. I think one of those pieces in the beating game is Cleo Brooks. I mean, she has such consistent blocks and catches that once she strings all of those skills together, her opponents start to second guess throwing at her. And then there's also Molly French, who is an insanely talented free beater, who's incredibly smart at knowing how to maintain control and also just has quick decision making, which is going to be really key for BU.
Yeah, I think the big question for the BU Middlebury kind of rubber match is really going to be what Middlebury looks like. I think they're a team when everybody's there, they look like they can hang with the best of MQC. I know, unfortunately, for this spring, they're going to be out Hayden Lassiter, who's, I think, one of their top point scorer. I know at National Qualifier this past fall, he looks near unstoppable on a drive. He has a shot as well. I'd say pretty similar to Ethan Dillon in terms of like what they do for their team. But they're also going to be missing a key piece in Sydney Alexander, who's always fearless on the drive, Josh Harkins, who's a really talented beater as well. And I think a couple more players as well gone abroad for this semester. So I think the big question to kind of see, who's going to actually win the match kind of comes to like your players like Kate Petty, Jason Wu, who kind of have to step up in their absence. So it'll be on them. I know Kate Petty, she's good at hoops, kind of at point as well. Jason Wu, again, kind of took the Hayden Lassiter, I'd say, role while he was out, I think, with an injury earlier this season. But I think it's also going to be on some younger players. I know they have a new beater, Danny Smith, who looked pretty good in the first match he ever played. So it's kind of how they actually develop some of that talent. So I think it's really like what the younger players are actually going to bring to the team.
And speaking of like younger players bringing things to the team, I think a team that's in an opposite position is going to be Brown. This past semester, they had a lot of young players step up to fill the shoes of Will Richardson. And now Will Richardson is back.
Cannot say enough nice things about Will Richardson. An absolute chap off the field and a phenomenal player on the field. He's super quick. I know this summer he played for Boston Forge, a team we're both on as well. Played for Team African Nations. Had a short stint on New England Jinx, just filling in for the national qualifier. And so it's really going to be kind of how he takes all that experience and confidence he's gained playing against, club players, some Team USA players, both for African Nations, and then, at practices for Forge and even at just like World Cup, all that, and how it all kind of comes together for Brown's chasing game. He's also a very talented seeker. I know this summer he caught in a high pressure situation in the quarterfinals against Austin Outlaws. Dual threat brings all that. But I think the big question on if Brown can beat some of these more like higher level MQC teams is just kind of how they get the other like younger players, to your point. So there's like Thomas Flathers, who, again, looked pretty unstoppable on a drive. They have a new player, Muhim Ali, who she's looked phenomenal, absolutely just fearless with the ball in her hands. She's cutting, she's driving, doing everything you like to see from a new player. And so while I think it might be a bit of an uphill fight to beat BU, I think if BU doesn't take it seriously kind of from the start, it might be a little bit closer than they're anticipating. I do think they have a lot of the key pieces, though, if they all show up to play close games with Middlebury and Tufts.
And speaking of Tufts, I think their recruitment is going to spell the story for them this semester. They had lower numbers throughout this fall season, but are just coming off of their first win of the season against Emerson at the Boston qualifier. It was 155-60, and that's over the Emerson, who is currently at the top of D2 standings for MQC. So we'll see how they can ride that momentum and potential new recruits into the spring semester.
Yeah, exciting to see the MQC season kind of get kicked off this weekend. Again, you can watch on the MQC Facebook page, so Massachusetts Quadball Conference at 9 a.m. Saturday, February 17th. And you can check back here on the YouTube next week for some highlights of the weekend.